but it also has a lot of other stuff in it that you may not want, especially if you are drinking it as a protein source. I think this is the problem. There's kind of a stigma out there, oh, it's just pure protein in a bottle, and this is not true at all. Time out of the bald a-hole here. Welcome to a brand new week. If you are watching this today, it goes live. Quick pimp that yes, the new merchandise is here. Salmon.bigcartel.com. Thank you to everyone that has bought a shirt so far. Always amazes me when I get an email that says, oh, someone's bought a shirt. I'm like, man, that's a crazy thing. Stock is limited, so stock is now super duper limited. I do have a few left of all the tees that you'll be able to see on the screen right now. If you do want to support the channel and you want to walk around with a dumb joke of mine on your chest, I would massively appreciate it. And also, I massively appreciate you being here right now. And yes, we're doing a very obvious and boring video, but it's about the best and worst protein sources. And this mostly comes from a conversation I have with, well, quite a lot of people, and they're all obsessed with milk. Now, we'll get to milk down the line, but if you are right now training to put on size or, whatever you're trying to do, you're going to need protein. So here's the best stuff you want to be eating, and here's the worst stuff that I think you shouldn't be eating. But I tell you, we'll use milk as an example again. If you're chugging milk right now, and you're like Arnold Schwarzenegger, who did you should drink a lot of milk, you don't need to listen to me. There's just some thoughts I have about it. And we start with chicken, because of course we start with chicken. Anytime you see any kind of diet, it's like chicken, 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 chicken. And that's because it's one of the best protein sources you're going to be able to find. Now, of course, if you buy chicken legs or chicken thighs or whatever it is, they're going to have the skin on, so they're a little bit higher in fat, but you don't have to be terrified of that either. Just make sure you work it into your day, you work it into your macros, blah, blah, blah. But yes, if you do just get a skinless chicken breast, you are essentially talking about 31 grams of protein per 100 grams of chicken breast. Another reason people do lean towards chicken as well is because it has your full amino acid profile thingamajig, whatever word you want to use. And don't forget, that's what a protein strand needs to be. It needs to have the complete chain of amino acids so your body can take it in the way that you want it to. Some people, they just find these crazy high protein sources, but they don't actually look into the science, I suppose, behind it. And you always want to make sure it does have a full amino acid profile. Otherwise, yes, you may be eating all this stuff and going, why don't I look like a big jack brick house? Now, for the people that are all like, Simon, that wasn't explained in a very intelligent way. One, I'm not an intelligent person. And two, my channel is here to try and help people in the simplest way possible. Because I know sometimes shout things at me and I'm like, my poor brain can't keep up with this. And I start to feel dumb. So, it's just nice to try and present things in a nice and simple way. But yes, chicken breast is always going to be good. Whether you're trying to bulk up, whether you're trying to cut down, chicken breast all day long. Next up is steak. Now, steak is a difficult one because if you go into kind of the traditions of bodybuilding, everyone's like, oh man, you got to eat steak, it's full of protein, which it is. But it's also super expensive, which is something you've got to take into account because money is hard to come by, of course it is. But also, you're going to want to make sure you get one that is as lean as possible. Because if you are buying a steak that is covered in fat, I know it tastes delicious, you are essentially spending your money on a protein product, but you are not intentionally, but just by what you're doing, lowering the amount of potential protein because more of the steak is going to be fat. And you don't want fat, so you shouldn't be buying fatty steak. So really, it's not as good as a chicken breast if you are just looking for protein, although you are getting around about 25 grams of protein in around about 100 grams of lean fillet steak, which is what I try to go for. So that is pretty good. The problem you are going to contend with is that, yes, you are going to have to spend a bunch of money on it. And also, if you're interested about what I do, and some people are, which I appreciate, I don't really eat red meat anymore because of the effect it has on the environment. So over a few months now, a couple of years ago almost, maybe 18 months, I thought, well, what can I do in order to try and help out? And I thought, well, that's some teeny tiny thing that I can do. So I kind of almost use it as a cheat food, I suppose, and I certainly don't eat it every day. There's also studies out there that say it can be bad for your heart, but again, you do enough Googling, some people say, oh, no, it's good for your heart. I think the bad for your heart ones are probably more sustainable, if that makes any kind of a sense, but it's not the healthiest food to eat if you are going to be having it multiple times a day, but it's good to have on your list because in order to keep up with the diet, you need to have variety, which is here. I'm going to drop in the Greg Doucette Power 13 cookbook. I'm just a promotional machine today. Link in the description. Use code Simon15 to get 15% off, and then you can get a bunch of these meals, all high in protein, and your diet will be better than your birthday. Which also moves us on to tuna. Now, tuna is amazing because it is so damn cheap and it is so damn high in protein. When I was sort of back in university and I started lifting weights, in my supermarkets, my grocery stores, you could buy this really cheap tuna and it had the same kind of macronutrients as the really expensive tuna. It just tasted a little bit weird. Now, I don't want to know why it tasted a little bit weird. I don't know what they were doing. But again, if you are trying to lift on a budget, it's something to look into. The big no-no, I suppose, that you need to worry about when it comes to tuna is the fact that, yes, you may, very, very rare, but it can happen, suffer from mercury poisoning if you eat too much of it. And because I used to over-rely on it on crazy, I did start getting a little little bit ill, I think because of the tuna. I never found out for real, but I went for my doctor and I told him this and he said, I would back off that tuna a little bit. So again, everything in moderation is key, but given that you can get like a can of tuna for like 50p, I don't know what that is in America, and for 100 grams of tuna, you get 23.5 grams of protein. That's pretty damn good. And there's barely any fat in it, there's barely any carbs in it, and it comes in its own can. So it's basically like a snack you can take on the road. Now, the next question people ask is, should I get it in spring water? Should I get it in brine? Should I get it in sunflower oil? Oh no, sunflower oil full of fats. If you're eating 32 cans a day, one, don't do it, but stick to the spring water one. But I think sunflower oil, yes, it has a bit more fat because it's in sunflower oil, but if you prefer the taste and it's going to get you to eat tuna over putting a pizza up your ass, go with the sunflower oil tuna. Next up there, we stay on the fish train. Not a real thing. You wouldn't want me on a fish train. It'd be absolutely terrifying, especially because you're not a fish. And if you are a fish, thank you. You've just added to my demographic. And we will talk about salmon. Now, this kind of ties into the steak argument. Super duper expensive, right? Fish just is expensive in this sense, but it's really good because not only is it high in protein, but it's really good in healthy fats. Why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want your healthy fats? Everyone's running away going, oh, if I eat fat, I'm going to get fat. But that's true from any food. Again, you could sit there and eat chicken breast all day. If you eat too much chicken breast, you are going to get fat. And again, you don't want to eat too much salmon, so you send your fats through the roof, but these are the kind of fats you want in your diet because they're going to help your metabolism and just going to help you overall as a human being, and they're going to help your heart health. Remember, that's the most important muscle. It's also awesome as a change when you do get bored of chicken. There's that word again, but sometimes I just throw a couple of salmon fillets in the oven and I kind of feel like I'm having a treat, but I'm not, and it doesn't make any sense. 100 grams is around about 22 grams of protein in it as well, which is great. And again, just factor in the fats to your diet. Like before you go on any kind of a diet, well, you don't have to do this, but a good thing to do is try and figure out how many calories do I want, how many fats, how many proteins. I mean, it depends what works for you. Some people just like to focus on calories, which makes sense. Calories in, calories out. But if you are worried about fat, just add up the amount of fat that you are eating, decide the amount of fat you want to get into your diet or what serves you well, and then what's I got it down here. So fat is around about 20 grams as well, which is high, but again, good fats. But just make sure you go, well, that's my 20 grams of fat. And if you've got 20 grams of fat elsewhere, take it out. It is just that simple. It's just maths. And it's just science, which is why in school, they should have been teaching us about nutrition, because I tell you, I would have done a hell of a lot better. We'll follow it up with eggs, which to my money is probably sort of 1 and 2 when it comes to the best. Like chicken and eggs kind of fighting out against each other. There's always the conversation about the yolk. It's going to be different depending on the person you are. Can yolks, increase your bad cholesterol profile? Yes. But does that happen in everybody? No. And if you're only having a couple of egg yolks a day, I think you're going to be all right. This ties into the fat stuff that we already talked about. But mostly, you want to focus on the egg white, right? The egg white is where the most protein is, and it's pretty much all health. It's just health in a weird little cup thing. Also, the source of the protein in eggs is awesome. The amino acid profile that we talked about earlier is also great when it comes to an egg. They just kick all the ass. I cannot imagine a day when I don't have eggs, right? Again, some days I have a couple of yolks, some days I don't have a couple of yolks, and I always make sure I check where my cholesterol levels are. That's the best thing to do. Add in a couple of yolks, and if all of a sudden in a few weeks you think, oh, I don't feel right, go and get a blood test. If you go to any doctor and say you want your cholesterol checked and they say no, you have a bad doctor, especially when you sort of get over the age of 30. These are the things that you want to check on. And just to do a quick tangent, it's the same with blood pressure, not that it ties in here. You can buy a blood pressure machine for like 20 quid. Just always do it. Longevity and being alive is the key when it comes to having a good fitness experience. So you can have the eggs and you haven't got to worry about it. I think as well, it's hard to say with eggs, they come in different sizes, but usually one medium egg white is about 3 to 4 grams of protein or something like that. But the coolest thing is that you can boil the coolest thing. Like that makes no sense. What an unhip person I am. But you can boil them, you can scramble them, you can poach them, you can fry them. There's a bunch of stuff you can do. And don't be scared about frying them either. If you get one of those 1 cow olive oil spray things and you spray it 4 times, that's 4 calories. You're allowed a flipping fried egg. Okay, so here it is, milk. I just don't get it. I don't understand. I get why people do want to drink it when they're trying to bulk up, because it's a great way to get in calories, and you just take a bottle and you throw it down your gullet. And it is kind of got a lot of protein in it, but it also has a lot of other stuff in it that you may not want, especially if you are drinking it as a protein source. I think this is the problem. There's kind of a stigma out there, oh, it's just pure protein in a bottle. And this is not true at all. And we'll go with semi-skim milk as well, which I presume is what most people drink. I think in America it's called half and half. You have to forgive me, I'm a stupid, ignorant Brit. But if you drink 100 milliliters, that is 50 calories with 1.8 grams of fat, 4.8 grams of carbs, all of which sugar, and only 3.6 grams of protein. Now, actually look, decent amount of protein in there, but it's a carb drink. These are the rules on Simon Miller's fitness channel. Whatever sort of wins out when it comes to numbers is what you're allowed to call your product. So if you have a protein bar and it has 35 grams of protein, which is amazing, but you have 50 grams of carbs, you're not a protein bar, you carb bar. I also think it comes down to the fact that, again, 100 milliliters is 50 calories, and there's just other things that I'd rather get 50 calories from. Like, if you go and weigh out the amount of chicken breast you can have compared to just drinking some milk, the chicken breast is so much more, and that's going to satiate you far better. So I would always do that. So I suppose with milk, if you desperately want it in your diet, I would say just in moderation. Have it here, have it there, but don't just throw it down your gut. And don't not do it if you think it's just a protein source and you're trying to get abs. Now, you would be able to get abs on milk depending on what else you're eating. But so many people throw it back just to increase their calories. And for me personally, I don't think it's going to serve you that well long term. 0% Greek yogurt is what I want to talk about next. A lot of people don't like the taste, but I swear, if you get a good protein powder, whey protein, and you sprinkle it in and you stir it up, to me, it's just the greatest dessert ever, especially because listen to the macros. 100 grams is going to get you 54 calories, no fats, obviously, 3 grams of carbs, 3 grams of which sugars, but 10.3 grams of protein, which ties into everything I just said. That is a protein yogurt compared to actual protein yogurts. When you turn it around, once again, have more carbs. You can just use it in so many recipes as well. Like, you really can. It's essentially a substitute for not necessarily flour, but butter, I suppose, whatever else it would be. You can make cakes, you can make nice treats, you can make a bunch of stuff. Being introduced to 0% Greek yogurt and finding out a way that I actually enjoy the taste, thankfully I like it right out of the bowl, you could eat an entire pot of this stuff. While it's going to be kind of high calories, it would be nowhere near. Like, sometimes you break, right? Like, I just got to eat the ice cream, and you eat the ice cream, you have 1,500 calories. If you eat an entire pot of this, I think you're going to be sub 500, and you won't feel as bad the next day, and you may even look a little bit bigger because you've got a lot of protein. And we just mentioned whey protein as well, so we'll throw it in here as well. Look, it is a great source of protein because, of course, it is. It makes life so much easier. It's going to allow you to get your protein in on the go, or if you're having a stressful week, a stressful day, a stressful life. But it's a protein supplement. It's a supplement, right? So you're meant to supplement it on top of other protein sources. If you only want to get your protein from this kind of liquid, I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt you, but I do think you're going to be hungry all the time and you're not going to be getting the nutrients that real food will provide. So that's what I would always say. Try and get a good one if you can, but really most of them are all fine. Again, I get the budget has to come into the equation here. But I find some people first find whey protein, like, oh my gosh, I've got to drink just whey protein all the time, and they sacrifice everything else. I don't think you should do that. And I do think down the line it would probably cause you some gut issues, especially gut get fed up with it. Pork, ham, and bacon are ones that always people ask about, and I'm not really much of a source or an authority to comment on that because as a Jewish person, I've never had pork, ham, or bacon, but I do know that you can get lean cuts of this meat. They're just not as lean as some other meats we've mentioned on this list, and therefore you are going to be getting some extra fat. But my girlfriend eats a lot of ham, and because I'm weird, I've looked at the macros on the back of the pack, and it's pretty good. It is mostly protein because, again, she gets a lean cut, so you can do it. I think it's the same with bacon as well. Again, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but to me, it's all about getting those variations in. There's something called a turkey rasher. Now, look, I don't think it does taste as good as bacon. I've never had bacon, but this is what I've been told. But if you get a turkey rasher, that is all protein, and you're still going to get the sensation of eating bacon, so you can just not eat bacon and have a better overall calorific profile on that. But you can fit stuff like that in. You just got to be clever with it. You just got to put the time in beforehand. Get down and make all your notes. It's the same with vegan source protein as well. I don't think I'm the guy to talk to you about that because there's a bunch of other people that are far more educated than I am. But yes, if you are a vegan, you can still bodybuild, you can still lift weights, and you can still achieve protein muscle synthesis. Because there's beans, lentils, buckwheat, tofu. I mean, it may be harder to get the same amount of levels if you just have a chicken breast, but again, that just takes a little bit of time. And when you have adapted to that diet, there's nothing to hold you back. Don't believe these fuddy-duddies that try and tell you otherwise. And all of a sudden I say the word cheese to you. Now, if you are into this stuff, you know that it shouldn't be cheese, but so many people these days are pimping cheese as a protein product, which is even worse in 2021 because you can actually get protein cheese, which, oh my gosh, I will throw out to you all the time. Protein cheese is amazing. It is essentially 100% protein, and no, it doesn't taste as good as quote-unquote real cheese, but it's so much better for you, and it replaces it good enough that your brain will probably accept it. But look at the nutritional facts when it comes to, let's say, mature cheese. Because in 100 grams, it is 416 calories, 34.9 grams of fat, less than 0.5 grams of carbs, and 25.4 grams of protein. So yes, look, that's pretty good, right? That's pretty high, but you're also getting 35 grams of fat. And I've already established my rules. I will re-establish them. That is a fat product. That is a fat product. Now, you may be able to find ways to get it in, but again, to me, if you have 10 grams worth of cheese, and you're having 41.6 calories, that's way too much. If you move up to 200 calories, so 200 grams, 80 calories, we're getting into the 100 calorie range. There's just so much other things that you can have a ton of and it's going to be better than just eating a bit of cheese. And don't get me wrong, I love cheese. We've established it. We've talked about cheese many times. In one video, I talked about making love to cheese, and I regretted it. I shouldn't have done it. Probably got some of my videos demonetized. I just wouldn't fall into that trap. To me, cheese is a cheap food. Sausages and burgers are also things that people like to get in there. Look, if you are having the traditional sausages and burgers, I think you're kind of you're kidding yourself a little bit because they are really high in fat. But there are substitutions now. You can get those chicken sausages, which basically are 100 grams protein, so that's pretty good. And you can get super duper low percent fat burgers now, which essentially are just good cuts of meat. So I guess that ties into the steak argument. But sometimes people just have a normal burger and they put cheese in it and they go, well, there's a bunch of protein. And it's like, if you're figuring out how to work it into your diet, then you probably could get away with it, but you are going to be having a hell of a lot of calories. Which is the same for normal yogurt. I've never got this, but again, you see it all the time. People posting their diets. And because they don't like 0% Greek yogurt, they just want to have a normal yogurt instead, like a Muller thing, as if it's somehow the equivalent. It's not. A normal yogurt is not only just filled with sugar, it barely has any protein. Don't get me wrong, you can get good ones. Like you can get those low-fat yogurts that usually have, well, barely any fat in them, obviously. But the carbs are always higher than the protein. So for me, if I'm going to have a yogurt, and I don't think there's a massive difference between a 0% Greek yogurt and a, I don't know, Bio Valley yogurt or something like that, I was always up for the 0% one, and I'm pretty sure that they're slightly higher in calories as well. So that's just my take on it. But don't start eating like Rolo yogurts. Oh man, they're full of protein. In your dreams, they're full of protein. Ain't no way Rolo is full of protein. And we finish with an always controversial one, which are nuts. Look, nuts are not bad for you. Of course, they're healthy. It ties into the healthy fats that we've already talked about. And they do have a pretty good protein rate, but they're so high in calories and they are a fat food based on what we've already talked about. But you have like 10 nuts and it's so many calories, I just think they'd be better spent elsewhere. If you really, really like nuts, or if you need to have a snack because you're out and you're really hungry, of course you should go for nuts over having a pizza, a burger, a sausage, a cake or something like that. It's far better. But I think because in the grand ether, people just see nuts as healthy, they think they can eat as many as they want as a snack without realizing their calories are going through the roof, like Nando's. I think Nando's has finally gotten through to America. They sell these peri-peri nuts. And I know so many people that go to Nando's, they have these peri-peri nuts. Do you know how many calories there is in one serving of peri-peri nuts? It's like 500 calories. 500 calories. And it's all fat. That's going to wreck you. I'm not saying you can't do it here and there because those damn things are delicious. And once again, they get me excited. But I think it's really going to hamper your diet. I really think it's going to hamper your progress. Like if you have 100 grams of cashew nuts, let's say, it's about 550 calories. 550 calories, which is kind of what I just said. So I guess the peri-peri nuts about 100 grams. It's also got around about 44 grams of fat, and I think the protein is going to be about 18 grams. So again, it's a decent amount of protein, 18 grams. But to get there, your calories are going to be through the roof, and they're quite high in carbs. I think, in fact, I'm pretty sure it would go fat is first in terms of what they're made up of mostly, then carbs, and then protein is down in third. So you can have them in your diet, but you shouldn't be using them as a protein source. And it's the same for peanut butter. Have a look, you'll see it's really, really high in calories. So that's why you need to worry about it, but it's become a staple of, oh man, you're at work and you want a snack, just have a bunch of nuts. Then you've got people having like 10 bags of nuts a day. That's not going to do anything for you, apart from potentially it will turn you into a nut or make you really fat. So there you go. They are some of the best and worst protein sources that I am able to give to you. You should try and incorporate the good ones into your diet and the bad ones, well, you can try them too and you can see if I'm right or wrong, or you can just trust me. It's up to you. I don't control your life. Of course, there's plenty of others as well, but these are the ones I feel like you should have in your diet if you don't already, or they can at least make your diet easier, and ones that you should absolutely stay away from. And I'm sure I've missed some as well, but most others are kind of a grey area that I suppose you could either argue for or argue against. But again, trial and error. You are you. Your body is unique and individual to your circumstances, and you never know how it's going to respond to anything, which is why going to the gym is both brilliant and why it absolutely sucks. Now, please do leave a comment below and let me know your experiences with these kind of food groups. Then like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the bell, ding, ding. It's right there, so you know when other videos are going live. I'd appreciate it. Another video on the screen right now. Give it a click. YouTube loves that algorithm. YouTube's mad at me at the moment. A bunch of my videos got demonetized for some reason, so I need the algorithm love. Patreon.com/Simon316 if you want to support the channel that way. Again, merchandise is here. Simon.bigcartel.com. Got a relatively small amount of stock left, so check that out should you so wish. Power 13 Cookbook by Greg Doucette. Again, we've already talked about that. At Simon316 on Instagram and Twitter. I feel like I've done enough pimping now. Thank you for joining me as always, and I'll see you on the next one.